So this is a new camera that I'm working with. Well, technically new camera on a new phone. So if things start to go wrong at any point, I apologize. I haven't quite figured out how to work this yet. But I have 3 videos for you guys, 2 of which I really should have filmed last week, but I ended up not having time. And that is my July wrap-up, my August TBR, and a TBR for a readathon that's actually happening starting today, so I'm a bit late in filming this video, but I was very busy / sort of out of town this past weekend. Like, I was out of town for a day, and then the day I was in town, I was just running all around. So, yeah, I've got quite a few things to share with you guys. And first, I'm going to start with my July wrap-up. And I thoroughly enjoyed my reading month in July. I got so much read, and I didn't get as much read as I wanted to, but it was like 2 or 3 times what I was able to read in May and June. Because in June I only read 1 thing, and actually I'm including that 1 thing in this video because I did not do a wrap-up since I only read 1 thing. And that 1 thing was I finally finished PoroInvestigates by Agatha Christie. I just listened to the last disc of this because I had already had to return the, ebook, through Overdrive because I think someone else had it on hold. But yeah, so I listened to the last disc of this and I completely loved this entire, collection. This is a collection of short stories that are Poirot short stories. It's not his entire collection because his entire collection is like 5 times as thick as the Miss Marple collection. So this is just one small collection of his short stories. And I loved it because David Suchet narrated this, and he played Poirot in the BBC adaptations for 25 years. And so really, to me, he is the only Poirot. Like, I have tried going back and watching the old, like really old adaptations from like the 60s and 70s before these took place, and none of them ever work for me. I'm like, nope, none of y'all are Poirot, sorry about that. Including that, I think there was one where David Suchet, before he played Poirot, I think he actually played Inspector Japp in one of them, and I forget who played Poirot, but it didn't work. But anyway, so because of that, he is perfect at doing the Poirot, accent and voice imitation, because he played him for 25 years. So yeah, he has his English accent for the majority of this. He does the narration and Inspector Japp and Captain Hastings all in his English accent because that's how they're supposed to be read, those characters. And then for Poirot, he just slips into the Belgian accent so easily, and it's really wonderful. And honestly, there were too many of these stories that I thoroughly enjoyed for me to name off a lot of them. I really only didn't like maybe 2 or 3, and it's just because they weren't up to par with the others. It wasn't because there was really anything wrong with them. So yeah, this was highly enjoyable. And then I finished the Miss Marple short story collection. This was the first thing I finished in July, and I only had about 70 pages to go, and I really loved this. I would say I marked all the ones that I really enjoyed, which was about half of them, I would say, and I think I probably enjoyed the first half of these better. I don't know why. I don't know why the second half kind of fell a little more flat for me. And, you know, I did enjoy over half of these, so I don't want to name all of them, but ones in particular that I enjoyed were The Companion, The Blue Geranium, The Affair at the Bungalow, The Christmas Tragedy. There were a lot that I really liked. I was disappointed in maybe 3 or 4 of them because for some reason I was able to guess the ending, and that was really disappointing to me because I hadn't seen any adaptations of them, so I literally had no exposure to these stories before reading them in here. And for some reason, I was able to guess the ending, and I was just really sad about that. But then after a while, I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? You have been reading Agatha Christie a lot lately. I've read 3 Poirot books, plus I've been reading this for a year. So I feel like at this point, maybe I'm just starting to realize how she thinks when she is figuring out who the killer is. So, and, you know, I'm not saying that, like, at this point I'm a Christie expert, so I'll be able to guess all of them. I didn't, thank goodness, with these. So, yeah, I just, I enjoyed most of these, and hopefully, from here on out, when I read these, I won't be able to guess the ending. I hope. But, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that. And then I read Color of Magic and the Light Fantastic, both by Terry Pratchett. These are books 1 and 2 in the Discworld series, and they are also books 1 and 2 in the Rince cycle, which is the Rincewind the Wizard branch of Discworld. And really, these are 1 and 2, but they're really 1. I would never recommend reading this one and then reading a different Discworld book, not immediately followed by this one, because these two are basically one book. What happened was Terry Pratchett wrote Color of Magic, and he realized after it was published that this is a great introduction to his world, but he didn't really put any plot in it. It's really just character and world introduction, which it's a great introduction, honestly. The characters are wonderful, and it just sucks you into how amazing this world/universe is, but there's not too much story to it. So then he wrote Light Fantastic and had that published, because what this does is it takes what happens in this book and kind of carries it on and just ties everything together to create a actual linear plot. So yeah, this was really, really good, and these two together, I would probably give like somewhere between a 4 and a 4.5. I don't usually do quarter reviews, but I would probably, or quarter ratings, but I would probably give this like 4.25, just because I think I gave Hogfather a 2.5, I mean, not a 2.5, a 4.5, and I did enjoy that slightly more, because I just love Christmas, and Death is my favorite Discworld character, and Susan's probably my second favorite Discworld character, and it was just so amazing that I don't think any of the Discworld books are going to beat Hogfather for me, but these were really good, so 4 or 4.25, somewhere in there. And then in between that, I read The Winter's Curse by Marie Rutkowski, which I was very hesitant to read at first because everybody who read it on BookTube gave it a great review, which was excellent, or at least everybody that I saw. But I knew what the synopsis was, and the synopsis kind of sounded a bit taboo for me because this world that she has created, this fantasy world, slavery is a huge aspect of it. And that just had me worried a little bit. So what I did was I found the first 5 chapters of it on Amazon Kindle for free, which was great. I love it that they do that with a lot of books, where you can read the first few chapters of a popular book for free and then decide if you want to buy it. So I read the first 5 chapters, and of course I ended up falling completely in love with the writing and the way that she had crafted this world and the characters, because Kestrel and Aaron, the 2 main characters, are just wonderful, and it is just really well written. And then, so immediately after that, I was like, okay, I really do need to finish this, so I checked it out from the library, and the thing about it is that every subject, or every, obstacle is probably not the right word, I should say every taboo subject that she brings up in this story, mainly slavery. She presents every side of it. Like, she presents everyone's view on it, whether a character is a slave or is a member of the country that enslaved them, because what happened was one country invaded another country, and so that's why the people of that country then became slaves. And then it talks about what their people thought of the other people before the war, and it's kind of complicated to explain, but she basically explains all sides and then says, okay, what if this was turned on its head? Like, what if this situation was reversed? And I just thought that that was a really good way to describe it and execute the, not topic, but the story. And it was just really, really well done, and I loved it. To the point where I actually got the sequel, Winter's Crime. And yeah, so that was really, really good. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then I read, I think I actually read this next one before I started this one that I'm holding in my hand, but I read Demon Glass by Rachel Hawkins. I started reading that book in, I think, at like 10 at night, and I finished it at 4 in the morning. It was amazing. It was the sequel to Hex Hall, the second book in the Hex Hall trilogy, and I actually had to refresh my memory about what happened in Hex Hall because I remembered really loving it, and I remembered how it ended, but I didn't remember most of the main details, because I read it like 2 years ago, and I read Demon Glass, and I completely loved it. Like, it was amazing. I thought it was actually better than Hex Hall, in my personal opinion, and also I was really excited because it really expanded on a character who I sort of, like, I liked this character in Hex Hall, but Demon Glass made him my favorite character in the book because his name is Alexander Callahan, and in the book he's called Cal, and he is part of, unfortunately, the generic YA love triangle. He's one of those 3 points. But this character is amazing. He has the personality of Dickon from The Secret Garden, but he looks like Jay Courtney from Terminator Genesis if he were 19. And so I just completely love his character, like, absolutely. And it was amazing. But the only problem is that based on how Demon Glass ends, I'm pretty sure I know what's going to happen with Cal, and I'm not going to say because I don't want to ruin it for other people, but if it does happen that way, I'm going to be incredibly sad. But luckily, I think reading the first few pages of Spellbound, I'll probably know what happens. But anyway, yeah, I loved Demon Glass. It was amazing. And then I read North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. I put up a 20-minute review of this book because I loved it so much. I had seen the miniseries and thoroughly enjoy it. As soon as I saw the miniseries, I am pretty sure I bought the DVD right away, and I have read it. I mean, not read it. I've watched it over and over. I probably watch it 2 or 3 times a year, I would say, which is huge for me. Well, not really, but I mean, it's probably the miniseries that I watch the most often. And I just thoroughly adore it, and so I don't know why it took me so long to read this book, but it was amazing. And in my review, I actually do a bit of a comparison between the book and the miniseries, because there are a few things that I thought the miniseries did slightly better, but I still gave this a 5 out of 5 because, I mean, can you not tell how much I loved it from the 60 or so tabs that are in it? I loved it. I loved Margaret. I loved John Thornton. I really enjoyed Elizabeth Gaskell's descriptions of people's feelings, especially John Thornton's, because I mean, you can tell a little bit that it is a woman writing about a man's feelings, but she gets so far inside his head, and like the verbal descriptions of his feelings and his thoughts were just wonderful. And I've never read that in a classic unless it was a man writing a man's perspective or a woman writing a woman's perspective. But I've never gotten that from a classic where it was a member of the opposite sex writing the feelings of a character of the opposite sex. So yeah, this was glorious and wonderful, and I love it so much. And last but not least, oh wait, no, I have one more. I read The Pride of Baghdad, which was a graphic novel by Brian K. Vaughan, and it was very sad and really awesome. It was inspired by a true story that was a really, really depressing ending, and the illustrations were gorgeous. How he wrote the story was really entertaining. So if you like Brian K. Vaughan, and you really like beautiful graphic novels, then I would highly recommend it. And then last but not least, I started Mansfield Park by Jane Austen, and this is a reread for me, because I saw the film. I saw both versions of the film, and I really didn't like, I loved the acting in both of them, but I really just didn't connect well with the story or the main characters. For a very long time, Fanny Price was my least favorite Austen heroine. And then, so we had to read this for my Austen class, and I skim read it. I didn't even really read it. I just, like, I read enough of it that I thought I could pass my quizzes, and turns out, for some of them, I barely passed. But yeah, so then I just did not enjoy it. But then I started watching From Mansfield with Love recently, like a couple months ago, and I completely fell in love with that modern adaptation, because the way that Frankie is portrayed, her name is Frankie in the modernization instead of Fanny, because Fanny just wouldn't be appropriate for modern times. But yeah, her name in it is Frankie, and she is just wonderful, like the way the actress portrays her, and also for some reason seeing it in a modern setting and like the way that the actors are portrayed, which is just wonderful. I mean, the way that the characters are portrayed by the actors, and me being older and me being having more life experience under my belt, I just have been able to identify much more with Frankie Price, Fanny Price, Frances Price, much more so than I did when I read this. Because when I read this and when I watched the film originally, I couldn't identify with her at all. And now it's almost like I over-identify with her. But yeah, so because of that, I decided to give this another shot, and I'm reading and listening to it right now, and I am thoroughly enjoying it. So yes, I'm actually liking this much more than I used to. And that was it for July. I'm sorry if that took so long. This might not even upload, depending on how long it is. But next up will be my August TBR pile, and then I will be filming a TBR for the Book 2-a-thon, which starts today. So it'll be a little bit late, but I'm excited to get into that. So thank you guys so much for watching, and let me know what you think of any of these, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.